Here we are, Surrendered Life Podcast, and I'm excited to have Glenn and Marie. And I just feel like this topic today is just very fitting for you guys in a certain way that you live your life, or at least even if you feel yourself fumbling through it, probably would say at least it's a high value for you. And it's this last piece of this second part of this series that we've been in. What does it look like to live the love story of Jesus? And we're on this idea of what it looks like to live for Jesus, with Jesus, as a rhythm of a life and not as an event. And there's something about the importance of this conversation in our culture and Christianity in our time, where I really feel like we're taught that that living the Christian life happens at an event, or there's some spectacle, or there's something that we show up to, that we mark on our calendar that says, I did another Christian thing. I did another walk with Jesus thing today. But I love the word rhythm, because it just implies, as I'm going about the things that happen in my life, where I live, where I work, where I learn, where we laugh and we play, there's this idea of walking with Jesus, living these things out. What would you guys say in terms of what this has meant to you, and just kind of how you would say, or that you understand the importance of living your faith in a rhythm and not in a moment?
Yeah, I mean, for me, growing up a pastor's kid, being involved in a rhythm was very normal.
Yeah.
So when people didn't have that always felt very strange to me. And so there were aspects of, what you did do on a regular weekly basis, but then there was the in between. And so there's rhythm things like growing up in a Christian home. Before you eat, we just stop and we pray. Like, hey, we're gonna thank God for this food. Like, there's things pretty common today, and it was a lot for me growing up too. Is like the music you're listening to, the songs you're singing.
Sure.
Just naturally being like, hey, there's a rhythm to this,
Yeah.
And it all points back to our Creator.
Yep.
And so for me, there's some level. Don't yell at me on this. Some level of consistency.
Sure.
I'm much less consistent than Marie is.
Mm.
But there's some consistency in that, like that provides what is life for me.
Yeah.
And I think the more we can structure our rhythms to direct us to the source of life, then the more lovely life becomes. And that doesn't mean easy. The more lovely it becomes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the things we do are based on just who we are
Yeah.
as followers of Jesus.
Yeah.
So our days are spent focusing on his calling on our lives. And for the season we're in, which has been for a long time, and it's not close to ending, it's as parents, and just how do we model that day after day for our kids? How do we make sure that we're pouring into them the time and allowing them to see us doing those things, whether it's private, individual, quiet study and time with God, time in the Word, going to Bible studies, and then time as a family. It's just important to us.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you sort of teach this or shape this into your marriage and into your family? Would you say that this has just become so rhythmic for you, or is it more of a challenge to be intentional, but the importance of it, the value of it is kind of not forced you, but just guided you? Like, we value this, we need to be intentional. Or do you just look back sometimes and go, it's just been rhythmic for us, just what we do?
Just what we do.
Yeah.
And actually there are times that we're like, man, we used to have to like coordinate more. Now it's just what we do. And the kids are older, so we don't have to worry about naps and all those things that would interfere on a Sunday.
Yeah,
and
sure.
saying yes to certain things, but no, it's just what we've always done.
Yeah.
I would say there's a yes and.
Yeah.
Right there. You're absolutely right. And for anybody that knows us as a couple, Marie makes me who I am. Like, if you're ever questioning, like, is there a God? Just like, look what I've been gifted with here. It's insane.
That's awesome.
So she's incredibly consistent. And there's things that, like, she answered genuinely, like, no, that's just what you do. Like, it's built in. For me, I don't have I have that in some areas. Like, hey, we go to church. Like, that's just what we do. We're in a small group. Yeah, that's just what you do. Like, you have to, if you're going to live out what the Bible's telling us to live out, there's things that you just need to do. Like, I've got to spend time with Jesus. I've got to surround myself with other believers. I've got to, be brave and tell other people about Jesus. Like, those are like normal things. I think the pieces for me that get sometimes tricky are when there's a squeeze on time. So like we regularly refer to as like a capacity or a bandwidth deal. So if my bandwidth gets stretched, I get fast because stuff's got to get done.
Yeah.
And it's in those moments where it becomes less rhythmic and more intentional, where I have to say, hey, I know there's all of these things going on, but like you need the time. And so it's the individual time that requires more of an effort, where I'm gonna say, hey, I'm gonna sit and be quiet.
Wow. Yeah.
Anybody who knows me knows that's difficult too.
Sure.
Like, I'm just gonna sit and be quiet and like try to hear from God. And so that's where the community part is really important, because I'll get distracted and then connect with one of my brothers or sisters, and they're like, hey, like, oh, we just spent quiet time today, and they're like this. I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh yeah. I got to get back to that. So there, I would say yes and
Yeah.
is my answer in that.
Yeah. It's like there's two sides of this rhythm thing. There's individual rhythm, and then there's this corporate rhythm. This idea of these are the things that I need to do or focus on. And these become my habits. And then there's inviting other people into the places that would be appropriate for other people to be invited into. One of the places that I think we don't realize is the most rhythmic place in our lives is the table, is where we share meals with people. I think we can just rush through that and see that as this functional tool in the house, or that place that naturally presents itself with the opportunity to live this gospel rhythm in our homes, where we have tables where we sit and eat. We've built the entire architectural structure of how we live in homes around a dining table. We have whole rooms for sharing the table with people.
Yeah.
How have you guys been intentional with your table, both just as a family and as mission?
I'm going to let Marie answer the majority of this one. For our dynamic, I think of her as like the household CEO, and I'm in the household CFO. And so like these dynamics.
And the CEO needs a lot of what the CFO.
That is that's true. That's true. But what's so encouraging about it is how she utilizes those resources. And this is one of those ways. Like her generosity and abundance around the table is awesome.
Yeah.
But she's the one who like, this happens. Yeah. Like nobody's coming to dad like, hey, when are we eating Sunday dinner? Like that's never been asked. No, he's like, hey, Glenn, when are you going to cook again? Like that doesn't get asked. Like that's her department, and she's done an incredible job of making that a consistent rhythm over and over again, and doing it in such a way where we're not the only ones to benefit from it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think there's such value at the table.
Yeah.
I grew up a Jersey Italian, so every Sunday, we went to church and then we were out at the table. And my favorite were summers, because that meant it was the outside table, and which also meant swimming and just the sounds of summer. But we've built it in that Sunday family dinner is a requirement. It's a way to end our Sabbath together as a family before we head back into a chaotic work week.
Yeah.
Weekday dinners are far and in between as far as when we can all be together.
Everyone's together.
Because of the boys' work schedules and the girls' dance schedules. Dinner is always there, but it's more of a, hey, it's on the counter, make sure you make a plate. But Sunday family dinner, 5 p.m., they're there, they're home. And it's pretty much every week. And even this last week, he was away, and I said, hey guys, I'm not in the mood to make macaroni, meatballs, and sauce and all the things, which is what we usually eat. Yeah. But I did a hodgepodge of whatever was leftovers and freezer snacks that they love.
And you're at the table
those
of 5.
Teenagers with more than just my own kids, they're friends too.
Yeah.
we sat for over 2 hours on Sunday night.
No
No
way.
phones. It's just what we do. We sit, we talk about church.
Yeah.
What'd you hear? What,
Yeah.
what stuck? Do you have any questions? Because there are kids that don't know Jesus that come to our table too.
Love it.
So we want them to know that it is a place of peace and rest,
Yep.
a place to talk through what's going on in our worlds, and to pray together and to cry and to laugh, right? It's about having that connection time. And I love that my kids love inviting other people.
Yeah.
Just come sit at the table.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell you our address, but that's what we do every
Yeah.
Sunday.
Well, that's a byproduct, right? So a byproduct of the rhythm is that our kids knew, like, we got to be here at this time, and they enjoyed it. And so they're like, well, can we bring other people then? Right?
Yeah.
Like the byproduct of the rhythm was that,
Yeah.
which was a really cool.
And they've gotten in a good habit of saying, like, is anyone special coming this week? Because they see that as special. Will we invite somebody to join us?
Yeah.
And it's so funny to watch people come in, whether it's a couple or a family, and their eyes are wide because it's loud and there's
Sure.
kids everywhere.
Yeah.
But the moment we say, okay, let's pray, phones drop, hats come off, and they're there.
Wow.
And it's such a cool opportunity to allow others to be a part of what it means to be family.
Yeah.
We've got this young adults group that still meets at our house on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And the door is just open. We want our home and our table to be a place of peace and rest,
Yep.
where someone who doesn't have family nearby can come and feel at home, and to be prayed over and to be comforted and to be sent back out into the world ready to face whatever comes
Yeah.
their way.
You see so many places, they're there, but again, they're the little details that sometimes aren't the substance of a story in the Gospels that we'll see of Jesus. Like how often he's at a table, and like even in the book of Luke, we've been talking about this. Like he's either at a table, on his way to a table. Sometimes he invited himself.
Yeah.
Or pointing back to something from the table. And there's just something about that stands out to me. Then there's not just the table as like a reference of like this place where we gather, but we also see like a couple times his posture at the table. Like when Matthew says in chapter 9 that he was reclining at the table with Matthew's friends, the tax collectors and the sinners. That's what was so shocking to the onlookers or the Pharisees, was because this posture of reclining. Like if you actually see the picture of reclining in a first century table, it was almost like you're spooning the person next to you, and your heads were by the table, but you're kind of like in this like sort of close, awkwardly close, like that. You reserve that type of seating for people that you want, that are welcome, that you're enjoying with your time at the table with. I think sometimes now, and I don't know how much of a majority this would be, but I know that there are certainly people well-meaning, love Jesus, and I want to ask you about this, but who just go, well, I'm just not set up for that, or I'm not outgoing enough, or I'm not the hospitable type. Well, Marie, you're good at that. I'm just not good at that. There's this part of me that just goes, man, I get that. And I want to be sensitive to that. And at the same time, I just want to draw us back to the picture that we see of Jesus at the table. So there's this tension. I don't want to almost excuse and be like, yeah, well, you probably get a pass because you're an introvert, or because you don't think you're as good of a host as maybe Marie is, and et cetera, et cetera. But then there's this other side of that tension for me that goes, no, this is a non-negotiable. Where would that land? Like, how would you encourage somebody who maybe...
So it's something that we actually wound up doing in our early days, where we were one of the only ones that had a home, and it was small, it was tiny, and it was not unusual to put 50 or 60 people in that because they wanted to be there for dinner. Yeah. But because the others had an apartment or were newly married, we would say, you hosted our home. Yeah. Come over an hour or two before. You will use my kitchen. I'm here to help however you can, and allowing them to see what it looked like to be in that role.
Right.
And now when we look back, all of those couples are hosters to this day for their small groups, for their churches, for their families.
Wow.
But you need to practice it. You need to have opportunities. I learned it in my home because my mom's home was the home. Yeah. And, dad would welcome them in and mom was cooking. And my job was to help. So I learned it at an early age. But if you don't give people opportunities to practice it, how are you going to learn it? So my kids are all used to it. Back then, my dad didn't really do any of the cooking or cleaning up. That wasn't his role. But my boys, they know how it works. The girls know how to participate. This is a group event, a family event to love on others as they come into our home.
Yeah. So you're modeling it, obviously, for your kids, your family, but you're inviting, there's a bit of a discipleship component to it as well for other people.
Yeah.
You'll just do it. You'll do what you feel like you're called and equipped for, and hope and believe that other people will see that and go, wow, there's something that happens in this setting that's strong. And there's something about that feels a little contagious too, that people just go, I want my home to be that way, or I want my table to be that way. And I don't want to lose sight of the bigger thing. I mean, whether it's, I think we use the table as an example. It's a strong one. But whether that's sports is a rhythm of life. If you're at an age and stage where maybe your kids are constantly, how are we living and modeling these things with those families or in those travel experiences, or work for a lot of people is an everyday rhythm of life. How are we? So I love taking the table and just go, you can really apply that to this, whether natural or struggled intentionality, but to look and go, if our faith isn't just expressed on Sunday, then if we believe that the work of Jesus is bigger than Sunday, then what are all those areas?
Yeah.
And then how do we implement into those? Any other thoughts?
I have two quick things back on what it feels like to do that. So number one, growing up, my dad had this habit of whenever we got anything new, it was always secondhand, 2 of 9 kids, pastor dad, right? Like, but whatever we got, we would stand around and say, hey, it's not ours. It goes back to him.
Wow.
And so we would do that with everything that we had. And so we've adopted that habit. So when we think about our house, we're like, hey, this is a really cool spot that God's given us to use for this time. But it's his. Yep. So when people come in, we've often just held that belief. I don't think about it now. It's just like that's just true.
Yep.
That's
Welcome
true.
home.
Yeah.
So when folks come in, it's not unusual for us to be like, hey, like you let me know if you need anything. But the kitchen is where we keep cups. So if you want a cup, like go look in cupboards, like go find it.
Right.
Like you're home, like just relax. And so I think that's a big part of it. Like this loosely holding, it's not my place. I'm the steward of it for now. So I think that's a big part of it. The second part of it that I've seen other people struggle with is they're like, well, I can't do it like Marie. Like sometimes somebody does something so excellent, you're like I'm minor leagues, right? Like I'm not like, that's not for me. And I think that's another big hurdle for people where they just need to say like, hey, if you're genuinely loving other people, it's not about how excellent the outcome is. The outcomes are God's to deal with. Like we're responsible for actions. Yeah. So do the action he's called you to do and let God handle the outcomes.
Yeah.
And so I think those are the two biggest things I've seen people kind of get tripped up on.
Yeah.
I just love the idea of being at a table with someone, hearing their story. And there's something about putting food out that really makes everyone settle. You know, hey, we can really talk and settle into this because everything that you need is here. And when we're traveling because of dance and all those things, even my girls have picked up like, oh, we should pick up donuts and bring them back because we know everyone's going to be in the lobby coming in. Like, hey, let's bring donuts because then they're going to want to sit and chat. Yeah. So they've even learned the idea of food brings people together and it allows them to just pause for a minute. Yeah. You know, it's hard to be running around with food in your hands. Yeah. It's not safe, but just that idea of just sit and enjoy this with me. And then that's when you really can get to know someone and hear where they are and where God is calling them to go, or if God's calling them because they don't know Jesus yet. It opens the door. Yeah.
Yeah. There's that part of it that it's rhythmic. It happens all the time. So which means it's an opportunity. It's an invitational opportunity. And I get this, when you're talking right now, I'm get like this, piecing these words together, that maybe food gets them to the table, hospitality keeps them at the table.
Mm.
And which is no accident, because then in a few weeks, we're actually talking about hospitality as a form of telling people the gospel, how we tell through hospitality, that thing that makes people feel a certain way, right? When we say hospitality isn't what you do, it's how you make people feel.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a couple weeks. But then the table or the rhythm, whatever it is, really is just a part of a bigger formula.
Yeah.
Where then it just feels like there's an opportunity to display to others, like you're talking about, like having people that don't know Jesus in your home at the table as part of your weekly rhythm. That is very evangelistic in a lot of ways too.
Because we're stopping and we're saying, hey, we pray first.
Yeah.
And then what'd you learn at church today? Where those conversations are starting, and it never fails. Someone will ask, like, well, what do you think this meant? And then everyone's getting to hear, and there was a time we used to do
I know what you're going
the
to talk about.
$100 question. The kids didn't want to go at our last church. They would go to youth group during big church time, and they said, we don't want to do that anymore. We want to go to big church.
Yeah.
So we would let them come to big church with us. But this is not phones. This is not sleep. This is not messing around. So if you were in service and you were a teenager at family dinner, you had the option to win $100.
Let's go.
Glenn would ask the $100 question. They did get a little wise and like AI, listen to the sermon and then track it and all that stuff. But it really gave them an opportunity to dial in. We lost a couple hundred on that one because they really started
best money
that
ever
was the
spent.
best money.
Like, come on.
But like they started paying attention.
Yeah.
They were
had
dug
to
in,
change the plan.
and they're like fighting for who gets to answer first. Like they were really, really intentional. And before we asked the question, we would go around and be like, hey, what did you pick up today?
Wow.
And then they're like, oh, these 3 things, these 4 things. Like they're like, oh, when we read this part of scripture, like I didn't know. And so it initiated, it was like an entrance ticket to incredible conversation specifically about exactly what I'm hoping they're going to dive into.
Yeah.
Right. So like for me, it was like, this is awesome.
It's a
And so
no-brainer.
the first question was pretty simple, and then they thought all of them were going to be simple. So the first one won, and they were like, "Oh, this is cake. I'm going to make $100 every week." And then they got really hard, and so it was like a 3-week drought. So I had to lighten up again. So there was some skill set of that, but we don't do it anymore, and we don't have to. Like it created this habit.
Yeah.
That once they found they were getting something much more than $100 out of what they were doing, it didn't matter anymore.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And then adults would come and sit at the table and be like, can I answer?
No. There's a $100 question over here tonight. Yeah.
And to just allow them in to see how these teenagers are processing
That's cool.
Yeah.
and what they're learning. So
That's cool. And I feel like we could keep this conversation going. We'll have to, maybe we can keep it going when I get my invite, my Sunday night
There you go.
invite.
Yep.
And I'll come prepared for the $100 question.
Awesome.
And no, but thank you guys for this conversation, but also just for you model something strong, and it is such a desire to see more followers of Jesus, not just see that he exists on Sunday, but in all of those nooks and crannies of life, and that there really is everywhere that there's habit or rhythm is an opportunity or an invitation to walk with him. So thank you guys. I hope a lot of people are encouraged and challenged, and hope a lot more tables are full after watching this. So thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.